So, und da sind wir wieder bei The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Und ja, im letzten Part haben wir die Möglichkeit gezeigt, dass das Buddy-Double von dem Opfer die Wachsfigur von dem Professor sein könnte. Wir hätten auch Glasscherben präsentieren können, die zeigen könnten, dass diese Glasfigur auch am Tatort war. Haben wir aber nicht gemacht und deswegen haben wir jetzt einen schuldig und die Jury sagt jetzt, warum sie Hairbrain für schuldig befinden. Ich war sehr genervt davon im letzten Part, ich bin immer noch leicht genervt davon, aber es nützt ja nichts. Mal gucken, wie das jetzt weitergeht. The Jurors' Contentions. I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything. Ach ja, und wir haben die Gerichtsmedizinerin Scythe als Komplizin beschuldigt, weil sie als einzige den Tatort untersucht hat. Nicht mal die Polizei durfte das untersuchen. Deswegen sagt er es jetzt hier. It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. Oh dear, this is most troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the corona, is it? I have had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture. Okay. Accusing someone without right evidence? Is not a proper job, is he? I won't have it. Somewhat unsurprisingly, it seems the introduction of this waxwork model to the proceedings has polarized opinion. Given that its face is obscured and its build in no way resembles that of the victim, I can only applaud my learned friend's temerity at suggesting it as Mr. Assman's body double. Yes, the applause is deafening. And yes, I know it seems extraordinary. But that's the point. That's why I have a strong feeling it's actually a greater clue than anyone yet realizes. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? I can't explain why at the moment, but I feel as though there's a specific reason why it was used, why it had to be this model. Really? A reason why nothing else would do, you mean? Yes, and I'm convinced. It's something far more significant than whether or not the model looked like the victim. Well, if that's the case, okay. We must prevent the trial from ending prematurely at all costs. Yes, agreed. I have to find a way out of this. If you are ready, Counsel, you may proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. Dann wollen wir doch mal gucken. Jury examination. The defense's rebuttal. I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything.
Hold it!
The order of things seem to have changed around here for some reason. Weil als erstes angefangen hat. I'm a copper, lad. It's a copper's discretion to bend the rules sometimes, when needs must. What's wrong with that? Where do I start? I've been working at the yard for 40 odd years. That's even more than I thought. We've only had a metropolitan police service in town for 70 years, you know? Of course, times have changed. The public didn't trust coppers back when I started. It was rough. We had to fight crime, and we had to fight to win the public's trust as well. And win we did. Forensic science was in its infancy too, even more than it is now. And she spearheaded the revolution. Dr. Scythe, you mean? That's right. About 10 years ago now it was, when I was still a youngish Bobby in the beat. That's when she started making a name for herself as a top-class coroner. And now look at her, head of the forensic investigation team, and a woman no less. Well, you won't hear me complain. It's what we all dreamt of back then, I tell you. Could you tell me without holding that gun in the air? We were all out to uphold justice, lad. Full of whim we were. Full of whim. That's coming across loud and clear. It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. Conniving, sich zusammenschließen, denke ich mal, oder? Was heißt conniving? Conniving. Darüber hinterhältig und T. Would ever be connive? Dulden, ach so, dass sie sich selbst dulden würden. Hold it! But we are only just starting to understand this case. What are you reading there, sir? The man behind those murders on Solar Pond Street was caught in 2 days flat. That's real policing for you. That's really not relevant to this case, is it? You're wrong there. Because it was Dr. Scythe in charge of examining the bodies. And it was evidence arising from her work that led to the arrest of the scoundrel responsible. Oh. That's right. Oh, that woman is at the forefront of this country's fight against crime. The idea that she's somehow involved in this murky business is a load of old tosh. I thought it was up to me to press the jurors, not the other way around. Oh dear, this is most troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole is nothing to do with the corona, is it? Hold it! Why would you assume that? Well, quite simply because that unsettling swindler has no relationship with the woman, does he? True. As it stands, we don't know of any connection. Oh gosh. But it would be delightfully romantic if they were somehow to have a mutual interest in the waxwork. Romantic? A woman of society such as myself views everything in terms of relationships, you know? A woman of society. Ja. Wenn es dich von der Society so stark beeinflussen lässt vielleicht. Well, you learn something new every day, even if you don't want to. One might wonder about the possible relationship between the defendant and this corona woman. Or perhaps between the defendant and the handsome prosecutor just there. This woman may be more astute than I've been giving her credit for. If that's the woman's stance, then perhaps demonstrating some connection between the waxwork and Dr. Scythe would be enough. Yes, I agree. As soon as we have even a whiff or of a connection, she'll be the first to know. I have had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. Hold it! What sort of problems? Let's just say we have run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street. Right, I see. Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage as we work in close proximity to our audiences. So we perform our great magic in parks, on street corners and the like. But the police use any excuse to make our lives more difficult. Was hast du zu sagen? Excuse me. Do you have something to say in response to that, Mr. Ottermole? Who are you calling a mass murderer? Ah, sorry, my mistake. I got confused because I heard you look like him. I don't look anything like the man. You wanna be locked up, Sonny? Thanks, Mr. Sholmes. Ottermole war ja dieser Polizeikiller, da haben wir auch schon von gehört. Perhaps we could move on. I was really wondering if you had something you wanted to add in response to what juror number 3 just said. And clearly you do. Back in my day, back in the good old days, it wasn't like this. What was it like, sir? We worked our fingers to the bone to earn the public's trust, we did. And by Jove, we earned it. People respected us back then. Respected you? No one would have called a corona into question in them days. A coroner's report was a hallmark of an investigation done right. Especially when Dr. Courtney Stevens put her name to it. She was the best of the best. And the apple of... hold on a minute. What are you talking about? Who's Courtney Stevens? Ah, sorry. Got a bit carried away there. Stevens is Dr. Size's maiden name. Her maiden name. So that was before she was married. Okay, bevor sie verheiratet war. Of course, yes. Silly me. It's Size now, isn't it? Stevens. I'm sure I've seen that name somewhere recently. Anyway, the point is, those were the great days of policing, not like now. Stevens. Ne, Quatsch, hier war es nicht drauf, aber hier auf dem Killers Autopsy Report. Courtney Stevens, also hat sie den Professor obduziert. Heißt das Wort, genau. Anyway, the point is, those were the great days of policing, not like now. Sorry to interrupt, sir. But do you think you could change your statement to include that name? Well, yes, I don't see why not. She was Courtney Stevens back when I knew her, of course, a legendary coroner, even then. Hold it! She was legendary, was she? What did you say? Ah, that woman is still the best coroner in the land, head of the forensic investigation team. Legendary was your description, sir, not mine. Rubbish, that word never passed my lips. I'd never describe anybody that way, ever, not if they were still in the game. I think the point you're trying to make is that Dr. Size is an extremely talented coroner, would that be fair? It would! If it weren't for the fact that you're trying to drag that legendary woman's reputation through the mud. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that legendary. Okay. It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever come. Blah blah. No dear, this is most troubling, but surely the waxwork the man stole is nothing to do with the coroner, is it? I have had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. Das hatten wir noch nicht komplett. What sort of problems? Let's just say we have run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street. Right, I see. Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage as we work in close proximity to our audiences. So we perform our great magic in parks, on street corners and the like. But the police use any excuse to make our lives difficult. Sometimes they even cook up a story to extort monies from the poor. Was denn monies? Monies. Gelder, okay. Well, that's definitely not right. Also, money ist wahrscheinlich, ne? Yes, and it is why I say that if you trust the police, you will have trouble. But here you are, claiming this waxwork model was stolen to star in an illusionary spectacular. The idea is so wild, I think I will take my chances and believe the authorities on this occasion. This is how the public at large views Scotland Yard, is it? Our own police force in Tokyo is not even 20 years old yet, is it? Perhaps we should view what's happened here in London as a measure of what may happen at home. Yes, like a Scotland Yardstick. I wonder how a policeman would feel listening to the way this juror speaks about the force. I'm sure he'd have a word or two to say in response. Hatte ja schon. I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture. Hold it! But you claimed the whole instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a trick. That I did. But there's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there? Sorry? I grant you, given that this cage appeared from amidst an explosion, there'd have been no need to use a real person. But if a waxwork had been used, the culprit could at least have had the decency to make it look like the victim. I'm not sure exactly how much criminals are governed by decency. The point is, if you're going to make a claim about that waxwork being inside the birdcage, you need to give us some evidence. Without that, it's just not science. Die Scherben, Wionoske, Die Scherben! I suppose we should expect nothing less than a logical argument from a fellow of the Royal Society. But that perhaps means his mind could be changed if he managed to present suitable evidence. Evidence that the Professor Waxwork was inside that birdcage. Can I produce it or not? Ich bin mir ziemlich sicher ja, aber weil das Spiel mich schon häufiger jetzt, zumindest in dieser Gerichtsverhandlung, um die Nase herumgeführt hat, habe ich jetzt erstmal gespeichert. Actually, I have something I'd like you to see, sir. Oh, I must warn you that I firmly believe it's only wise to trust men in white coats. So given your jet black outfit, I don't mind admitting to a sense of trepidation here. So you don't trust anyone in black. Looking in the mirror must be very trying. I do have some evidence that proves the Waxwork was inside that birdcage. Namely...
Take that!
Dankeschön. 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 What's that? A piece of glass. That was unusually thick for glass. Yes, it's a piece of broken glass that we found inside the jacket on the Waxwork. Das hättest du einfach vorher schon präsentieren müssen, Rionos, bevor es wieder Examination gekommen wäre. As you say, it's not ordinary glass though. It's very thick and clearly made for extra strength. Much like the special glass that was developed for the construction of the Crystal Tower. The Crystal Tower... Holy smoke! Exactly. The centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, where the very incident we are talking about took place. On the day in question, the birdcage fell from above and smashed through a window of that special glass. From whence the small piece originated. Is that it? Precisely. So, what do you say? Now that clear evidence in support of the assertion has been placed before you. Well, as I said, I only trust men in white coats as a rule. However, when the reasoning is sound, it's fair to say color shouldn't come into it. In light of what you've shown me here, yes, I feel obliged to change my position on the matter. Position ist ja das gleiche. In that case, juror number 4, you will amend your statement now, please. The presence of that piece of glass leaves me in little doubt that the Waxwork was indeed that birdcage. Okay. Können wir das schon irgendwie... The nonsense thing, oder? Yeah, it's most troubling, which the Waxwork demands has nothing to do with the corona, is it? I found my own problem with members of the police. I do not trust them very much. Accusing someone without white evidence. He's not a proper job, is he? I won't have it. She was Courtney Stevens back when I knew her, of course. A legendary Corona. Wir pressen erstmal noch weiter.
Hold it!
Bin mir unsicher noch. Thank you for reconsidering your position, sir. Your words are misplaced, boy. My opinion is governed by logic and science, and nothing else. Yes. Science is where you should direct your words of gratitude. Ah! What's the matter with you? Too good to say some words of thanks to the mother of all academic subjects? What is it about scientists? Honestly. Accusing someone without right evidence. It's not a proper job, is he? I won't have it. I've got to ask, why have you brought that corn into court with you? Calling a cop? He's been growing back on the farm. Picked him off on my way into town. He's a proper nibbler. He is. Yes, the nibbling seems to be taking quite a while. Maybe it could wait until after the trial? Oh, I don't like the sound of that. You need kernels at times like these. Whenever I've summoned big to the side, the kernels always point me in the right direction. See? You're talking about your cob of corn. Nibble nobble guilty bobble. Nibble not guilty out. 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 Achso, das ist quasi wie wenn man an einer Blume die Blüten zieht, ne? Oh, schuldig, nicht schuldig. Schuldig, nicht schuldig. Und sie macht das halt irgendwie rein mit den Körnern. Perhaps it's akin to fortune telling with flower petals, like people do back home. Genau, Susato. So Professor Harwain's fate is to be decided by a cup of corn. Could you not at least wait until we've had more time to find the truth before deciding on the defendant's guilt? Oh, I don't know about that. My time's awfully full already. Amazing. Maize ist doch Kornfeld, wenn ich mich nicht alles täuscht, oder? Maize? Mais, okay, das ist einfach nur Mais. I know it seems a little far-fetched to think that the Wexford model of the professor was in that birdcage. But on the other hand, it explains a lot. If there really is a reason why that particular Wexford had to be used as Mr. S.'s stupid, we must do everything we can to make the Jewers understand it. The truth is, I'm sure that's the key to this, but it's the most puzzling part of it too. In that case, you should see what additional information you can glean with trying to change the Jewers' minds. If you can read a book with eating a wisecracker, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm sure you can do this. Right. Yes. Okay. Ich würde dann sagen, das Statement hier ist auf jeden Fall sus. Also nicht sus, aber könnte uns weiterhelfen. Zack. Yeah, this is most troubling. The presence of that piece of glass leaves me a little doubt that the Wexford was indeed inside that birdcage. Aber ist das... Ne, es ist doch aber keine Connection to Size, oder? Ich probier's einfach mal.
Objection.
Okay. Those two statements are fundamentally at odds with one another. They are not, okay. Dann vielleicht dem kleinen Mädchen, weil sie gesagt hat, na, das ohne richtige Beweise.
Objection.
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Okay, das war's. Good gracious. To whose statement do you refer, Counsel? If you could put down your corn for a moment, juror number 5. Oh, you mean me? You've pointed out that it's wrong to make an accusation without evidence. But the accusation that the Wexford model was inside the second birdcage on the day in question is not without supporting evidence, as the defense demonstrated to the juror sitting beside you. Oh, is that right? Would it be fair to say you didn't follow the argument? I don't understand much besides Colonel Cobb, to be honest. Of course you don't. If I could interject here. Please do so. Now that this assertion of yours about the waxwork has been backed up by some solid evidence, it would be wrong of me as a man of science not to pursue the matter further. Nice. Ah, well, me too then. Sorry? If this brainy gentleman says he's right, then he must be. See? I wouldn't dream of going against Colonel Cobb or anyone who's got stuff in between the ears. Okay, Hälfte ist geschafft. Success! If you can call it that. Well, of course, if he's got some evidence, that's a whole other cup of corn in it. Lovely job. The possibility has been established reasonably and logically, and now warrants further research. I have met my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. Oh dear, this is most troubling, but surely the rest of the monster has nothing to do with the corona, is it? One is utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. She was Courtney Stevens back when I knew her, of course. A legendary corona, even then. Hatten wir das schon gepresst? She was okay, ja, hatten wir. Legendary. Müssen wir das Statement vielleicht mit dem von Juror Number 2, Nummer 2 connecten? Ich weiß es nicht. Das würde am offensichtlichsten sein eigentlich. Wir speichern es mal. So, alle 3 Minuten speichern, das ist auch gut. Pit.
Objection!
Okay, scheinbar schon. Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious. To whose statement do you refer, counsel? So, juror number 2. Oh gosh, me? What can I do for you? I presume that you heard what juror number 6 said in his statement. It's brought to light the maiden name of the coroner, Dr. Scythe, which in turn has revealed a connection that wasn't apparent before. Well, naturally, as a woman of society, I find such connections and relationships irresistible. But oh golly, I'm afraid I fail to see what you mean. Yeah, same. Dr. Scythe's maiden name is Stevens, and through that name, the coroner is very definitely linked to the waxwork of the killer. The defense has evidence to prove it. Ah, so, okay. My goodness, evidence you say? How utterly enthralling. Counsel, the court cannot overlook that last remark. I very much hope there's substance to your claim. Of course, my lord. Well, I would ask the court to look at this. The evidence that clearly links Dr. Scythe to the mass murderer known as a professor. Hier, weil sie da drin steht, als Courtney Stevens, meine ich.
Take that!
I have here a certain autopsy report from 10 years ago. A 10-year-old autopsy report? What relevance does it have? It is of course from the autopsy of the person portrayed in the waxwork, the killer known as the professor. The professors? But the man was a capital offender, so... That's right, this is the certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. The identity of the killer was never made public, so the report gives few details. But what's important is the name of the coroner who wrote it. Courtney Stevens. Oh my! Courtney Stevens! Strike a light! It appears that the professor's autopsy was conducted by Dr. Scythe 10 years ago. And a few days ago, Mr. Drebber very deliberately stole the waxwork of the professor from Madame Tussauds. A waxwork that doesn't in fact resemble the victim Mr. Asman at all. And do you suppose there's some unsavory relationship between those events? Absolutely, I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the professor case is at the heart of a link that we may have yet to uncover. Between Dr. Courtney Scythe and Mr. Enoch Drebber. Hidden links, mysterious connections, secret relationships. This is all most extraordinary. We are surely obliged now to explore this further. Nice. Quite right. We can't let this trial come to an end now. Not while there's this cloud of suspicion hanging over the yard's best coroner. It wasn't like this in my day, but we are still here to uphold justice in the end. Nice. We did it. Thank you, counsel. That will do. As a result of the summation examination, the jury's overall leaning has changed. The jurors now call guilty against 4 who call not guilty. Accordingly, the court has failed to reach a consensus at this time. And the trial must continue. We did it. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Another wonderful victory. Okay. Wenn jetzt noch eine Summation Examination in diesem Trial kommt und die genauso komisch eingeführt wird, obwohl wir ein Beweisstück hätten, was die verhindert hätten könnte, dann weine ich. Weil sonst ist der Fall halt mega. A waxwork of the despicable professor. Used as a body double for the victim in this quite extraordinary case. I must say it's extremely hard to believe the assertion could possibly be true. However, it would appear that it does at least warrant further investigation. It's the waxwork of the professor that links Mr. Drebber and Dr. Scythe. And I'm convinced that there's a special significance to that link. I don't know what you're hoping to prove, lad. I really don't. The truth, sir, by using evidence and testimony. If the court is to delve deeper into the alleged involvement of the waxwork in this case, then the prosecution calls for the owner of the model to be summoned as a witness. The owner? Two spells, ja genau. Madame Two Spells. I really thought that Lord Van Zieks would object to this whole line of inquiry. Very well, I concur. Make arrangements for Madame Two Spells to appear as a witness with immediate effect. Listen carefully, my learned friend. Oh, yes. You should know that you are on the brink of opening Pandora's box. Okay. The court shall now adjourn for 45 minutes. Das heißt, wir sind was Größerem auf dem Grunde. Wir öffnen Pandoras Box, was in der Metapher ist. Wir öffnen was sehr Schlimmes. The court shall now adjourn for 45 minutes. During that time, the prosecution will summon the new witness and prepare for taking the stand. Madame Two Spells, yes. I shall see to it at once, my lord. Ich bin gespannt. To be continued. Alles klar. To be continued? Dann können wir doch jetzt auch noch abspeichern. Save your current progress. Yes. Save. Save. Yes. Nice. Dann machen wir mal weiter.